We are a brand that is all about encouraging women, lifting up women, inspiring women. So what kind of brand are we if we are empowering a woman by having her purchase an item that was devaluing a woman as she made it? Nothing is important enough to devalue a human. My name is Sarah Downing, and I am the owner of Wild Ivy. Before I started Wild Ivy, I was a stay-at-home mom. My husband Shane and I have 6 kids. We are high school sweethearts, and it was really important to me that I was home with my kids during their formative toddler years. I absolutely loved being a stay-at-home mom, but it did not come without its challenges. I was at home raising the 6 of them for about a little over a decade. There definitely became a season of life for me that I started to realize that my creative side had really become lost. Around that same period of time, my dad passed away. He was kind of always the person in my life who encouraged me to follow my heart. He always believed in me and was kind of the igniter behind whatever dream I was chasing. I started to think about the things that make me happy and the things that inspire me. I am a photographer by trade. However, I did not want to get back into the photography industry, but I was really excited about the concept of curating things. I've always loved making something really beautiful, and I also really love clothes. It's always been something that I was passionate about. I decided to play around with the idea of curating a line of clothes for people. And then one day my husband and I went to lunch at this super cute place in the town that we lived in, and there just so happened to be a beautiful space that was available for lease. The only way I know how to put it is that the moment we stepped in, I knew that this was a place for me. I knew that this was maybe the home for what was being birthed in my heart. Even though I didn't know the specifics of what I was going to do yet, it felt like a space that would bring me out and a space that I could allow myself to do something new and just to feel all those feelings that I had put dormant for such a long time. Both me and Shane just knew. We knew that this was what was going to be next for us. 2 of my children's names are Wilder and Georgia Ivy, and I loved the idea that as I was going to transition into this new world of working full-time, that I could kind of bring a piece of my kids with me that would constantly remind me of my love for them and their love for me, and that what I was doing at work wasn't going to take away from what I was doing with my family. And so kind of the name of Wild Ivy was born. That concept, I'm so thankful, is the foundation of the store for me. One of my very best friends had just left the retail industry after almost a decade of incredible experience, and she was currently at home, being a staying-at-home mom, and I knew that she was also in a season of feeling really restless and ready to move into the next stage of her life. And so I reached out to her immediately and just kind of told her, I know what I can bring to this adventure. I know my business experience. I know my ability to cast a vision and run with it. And I desperately needed the other half of that puzzle.
One day was sitting in the office, literally crying, because I was so exhausted, so beat down by this job and this place that just took so much life out of me, and I thought, this can't be the way I live my life anymore. This is not sustainable to who I am as a person, to my family, and it's not fair. It's not fair for me to feel this way. So I made a very rash gut decision and I left that job. It was really hard to leave. Like I said, it was a great company. I had great benefits, all the things that our family really needed, but I knew in my heart that I could not keep doing that. Wild Ivy came at the perfect time for me. I am so outgoing. I love being outside of my home. I am the opposite of a homebody, so as much as I loved my time being home with my kids, it also wasn't the best for my mental health. My mom always called me a social butterfly because I was always out and about talking to people. So the 2 years I spent at home was not the greatest on my mental health. I was in a really dark place. Just felt like I didn't have anything to give anyone. I felt like I wasn't worthy. And really felt like I had kind of hit a spot in my life where I didn't know what direction I should go. I kept even talking to Sarah about all these different jobs I wanted to try. Should I go work part-time at a florist? Should I go all these different things, but none of them really felt like me. Sarah came to me and said, I have this crazy idea. and I would love for you to join me. I want to open a women's boutique. And of course I said yes. I had all this experience working at a large retailer, and I felt that I could actually make an impact. Over the years, I have worn many hats. Currently, I am a district manager up in Minnesota. I have done everything from our social media to creating policies and procedures for our store. I've worn many, many hats. Did I already say that? I've worn a lot of hats, physically and mentally. Metaphorically.
Tell me why ain't nothing but a heartbreak.
Or you can clap. I'm going to say sound sync and then clap.
Oh, we can't clap it together?
No, that's the point of sync. Okay, sound sync. I moved home from film school right before Sarah opened Wild Ivy, and I was driving back from visiting my boyfriend in Illinois. It's a long drive. She calls me and she was like, we talked for like 3 hours, and she told me all about Wild Ivy, and she was like, I just would love for you to be a part of the team. There was nowhere else for me to use what I learned in film school. Like, I have a photography business, but I wasn't doing video anywhere else. And so it made me feel really useful, especially while I was getting my master's degree in a completely different thing in psychology. So even on a more personal level, my life kind of got flipped over on its head in November. I was supposed to be moving away. I wasn't gonna be a part of Wild Ivy anymore. I was gonna get married, and that didn't happen, and kind of came back to Oklahoma in shambles and wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. Somewhere in there, she was like, do you want to be my videographer, content producer? I was like, yeah, I do. So kind of got replugged back in, and it's given me a really intense sense of purpose in a season that I have not had much direction or purpose, and a lot of heavy. It's been light, so that's kind of my tie into Wild Ivy, I guess. So, hi, Gorgie.
It's been really rewarding working with so many driven women, and also I've learned so much. And as I'm kind of trying to establish for myself, what am I going to do with my life? What career do I want to have? What kind of people do I want to surround myself with to help me achieve those goals for myself? I have a pretty good start with the team here at Wild Ivy.
Wild Ivy has been affected and inspired from women since day one. I can look back at kind of the people who taught me everything I know about retail, and they were all women. I can also look back over our collections and the transitions that we've made over the last 2 years, and all of those were affected by women, whether it was a story that I heard or an interaction I had with a customer, or even where maybe I saw one of my friends or someone I didn't know, but all female, maybe choosing to do something different and new in their lives, and it inspired me to do something different within Wild Ivy. What I'm learning is that when a woman chooses to honor her higher self, and she chooses to really be true to her authentic self and walk that out, it's extremely contagious. It causes a ripple effect in the women around her. Just a few months ago, we actually had another woman who really impacted Wild Ivy and created a huge pivot, kind of changing everything about the way that we function as a business.
She was just really kind to us and really knowledgeable, but also kind of gave us some insight about some things that we didn't know currently about when it comes to fast fashion. Some women who were in prison that were being like basically enslaved to make clothing and weren't getting paid at all for it, and we were just like, what? This is actually happening? She's like, yeah, and I was working alongside these women and trying to, you know, advocate for them, and just like her voice within it, just like telling us about this experience. And we walked away from that feeling like completely sick to our stomachs, that we did not know that that was happening, or that even was something that could happen. And we looked into it, and it actually happens very frequently. It was like a really big pivotal moment for us, and that's kind of when we started really thinking more intentionally about, okay, what do we want to represent as a brand? Like, we want to feel good with the clothes that we're buying and the clothes that we're wearing, and this does not feel good. So what changes do we need to make, like, now?
In all reality, we had been funding this movement within fast fashion without even knowing. And it wasn't that we chose that. It was that because of kind of ease, number one, but also this is what was shown as available and so many other people doing it, that we didn't even think
that it could be wrong, right? So we just kind of did what everyone else was doing. You know, we were so focused on creating something beautiful and trusted kind of just the process. And so it's definitely been a learning experience for us to honor where we've been and not feel shame and condemnation about where we were or maybe what we even profited on, but to set and really absorb the concept that, you know, once you know better, you do better. So what kind of brand are we if we are empowering a woman by having her purchase an item that was devaluing a woman as she made it? Nothing is important enough to devalue a human. And so for us, yes, it just became this pivotal point of we didn't know. Now we know. What do we do?